Hi everyone, it's Evangeline here at eTrailer, and today we'll be taking a look at our RockyMounts MonoRail 2-bike platform rack right here on our 2018 Mazda CX-9. So the RockyMounts MonoRail is a great bike rack if you have bikes of pretty much any shape, any size, any weight. So whether you have your heavy electric bikes or your really light carbon fiber frame bikes, this can work with that. So we're going to talk about those features and those specs, but we're going to focus on our vehicle here today. That way you can see what is the best fit for you, your different types of bikes, and your Mazda CX-9. So the first feature we'll take a look at is the tilt away feature. We have this bright blue lever underneath our bike rack. You're going to want to pull that lever and then just let the rack drop down to a tilt right there. It may be a little tricky at first, but we got it. And why would you tilt your bike rack away? If you want to access your hatch. So you can see here on our Mazda CX-9 opening up our hatch. Look at the clearance between our door, our pedals, and our handlebars, allowing us to reach into our trunk, grab whatever we need. So whether it's our bags, our helmets, or waters, you can do so even with longer handlebars than what I have here. You saw we have plenty of clearance. Now once your door is closed, you just need to lift this up and it snaps into place automatically, ready to go and ride. So what we're gonna do here is take a look at the way our bike is mounted to this bike rack. Make sure you hear that click, then you know it's secure. We have 2 touch points. So the first touch point is gonna be our rear wheel strap. That secures our rear wheel, and then we go over here to the front and we have our front wheel mount. I like pretty much any bike rack that has a front wheel mount just because of how convenient it makes it for me to load and unload bikes. Whether you have a carbon fiber frame bike like this, which if I did and I had another traditional bike rack with a hook, I'd be worried about warping or cracking the frame. With this, I don't have to worry about that. Also, for your children's bikes, women's bikes, step-through bikes, with those different shaped frames, this makes it super convenient because then you don't need the frame adapter bar. Now, when you want to take our bike off, you actually start over here at our rear wheel strap. So you press this lever, you lift up on the strap, and then I like to just leave this over to the side so it doesn't get caught up in our spokes. We're going to go over here to the front. Make sure to hold on to your bike as you do so. Press this big blue lever, lift up, push out, and just like that, we can grab our bike and go for a ride. I'm going to leave our bike over to the side. That way, we can take a closer look at the bike rack itself. So here we have our rear cradle. Notice how we have different grooves there, whether we have thin tires like what we had earlier to our fat bike tires of up to 5 inches. It can carry that. This goes onto it and secures that. This tilts back and forth as well to accommodate for those different wheelbases with a maximum wheelbase of I think 48 inches. Here in the front we also have those grooves for those different tire widths, and then this folds down to be nice, compact, and neat. We have that front wheel mount which I talked about earlier and about how this secures your bike. And then this folds out. What I like to do actually is I bring it all the way out and then I fold it against the rear cradle to be nice and secure. Okay, let's talk about the length this adds to our CX-9. We already have a longer vehicle compared to the smaller and slightly more popular CX-5, but if you have a small garage, the big question is how much length does this add to the back of it? Measuring from the bumper to the end of the bike rack, it sits at 32 inches. So that's going to be a measurement to keep in mind whenever you are backing into the garage or trying to park into a really tight spot. Let's also talk about ground clearance. So ground clearance is going to be measured at the end of the rack to the ground, 19 inches. Compare that measurement over here by the shank, and that's only 11 inches. So ground clearance is important. When you go up those steep inclines like those driveways or hills, your front will go up and then your back will go down. The CX-9, while it doesn't have the shortest hitch or the lowest hitch, it is kind of on the low side. So it is helpful that we have that shank rise so our bikes sit higher up off the ground. Speaking of that though, where your bikes will sit is 23.5 inches off the ground. So if you are maxing out this weight capacity and you're lifting 120 pounds total of bikes up on there, that's going to be the height you're going to have to lift. Yeah. Another thing you can do with this is if you don't have space in your garage, but you want to keep your bike rack on, or if you're not planning on going for a ride just yet, but you don't want to take the bike rack off because it is kind of heavy, what you can do is fold it up to be more compact. Remember that lever we pulled earlier? We'll pull that lever, but this time lift up and against your vehicle. There you go, secures right there. Let's take some measurements again. Measuring for closest point, it looks like over here by our mount, and that sits at 2.5 inches of clearance. Plenty of clearance there. Length now added to the back of our car. Bumper to the end of this tray, about 8 inches. Sticks out further down here. That's going to be about 10.5 inches, close to 11 inches. So big difference compared to when these arms were folded down. You'll definitely want it when you're driving around town and you don't want to take up too much space behind you. But what is it like living with a bike rack behind your vehicle? Well, notice how you lose access to your hatch. So if you do want to open up your hatch, you have to lift this up and bring this down. Good thing that's a nice and easy process, but still a process. Something that another bike rack that does that even better is the inno tire hold, and you can access your hatch even with it folded up. Pretty cool. Another thing is, notice how our rear window is completely visible, which is awesome. Our taillights are visible as well. Our license plate, see how our front wheel mount just kind of covers it, but it's mainly visible. Our backup camera sits above our bike rack, so you will see your bike rack in your view, but you'll also be able to see the cars behind you. If that's a big issue though, go ahead and ride with it down. Perfectly fine to do that. Okay, let's talk about how this fits into our hitch. There's two versions of the RockyMounts 2-bike platform rack. One has an 1.25 inch shank, and you can carry a max of 2 bikes on there. The other has a 2-inch shank, which is what I have here, and this one can be expanded to add more platforms. So they work the same way, but they have differences in terms of additions. So what I have is a 2-inch, and it pops right into our 2-inch hitch receiver. We have different locks here. So you're gonna get 2 of these lock cores, one for your hitch receiver, one for your bike rack lock or your bike's lock. This has an anti-rattle bolt that tightens down. What I do is I use a 3/4 inch socket and a wrench. You can pick those up here at eTrailer if you want to store them inside of your trunk for this bike rack. Once that tightens down, I'll demonstrate how that works. Let's do a quick shake test of our rack. Notice how I'm really just moving the vehicle at this point. We have pretty good stability, sturdiness here, especially with that tightened down. So definitely something to check pretty much every 200 miles, I believe, is the recommendation. So my personal thoughts about the RockyMounts MonoRail is definitely great versatile bike rack. If you want something that has good weight capacity and has really good clearance with your hatch, definitely the one to go with. Now, if you're going to expand this up, make sure you get the right shank size. We have some other options as well. You can get the add-on for this to get up to 3 bikes. You can get the Kuat Transfer V2 is another good option that has an open design and gives you that accessibility as well. Hopefully this video helped you out though with the different pros and cons and things to look for in comparison with your vehicle. This right here was a look at the RockyMounts MonoRail 2-bike platform rack on our 2018 Mazda CX-9.
Here it is on our test course. We'll start by going through the slalom. This is going to show us the side-to-side action, which simulates turning corners or evasive maneuvers. Next, we're at the alternating speed bumps, which we'll see the twisting action. This will simulate hitting a curb or pothole or driving over uneven pavement. And finally, we have the full speed bumps, where we'll see the up and down action, which is just like driving out of a parking lot, garage, or driveway.